Welcome everyone to the Prodependence webinar with Kim Buck. She's here to share her experience. She's collaborating on the co-authoring the Prodependence workbook with Dr. Rob, and she's using the materials in her clinical practice, and she's here to share the wisdom of what she's using and in her experience with her clients and help all of us. So welcome, Kim, and thank you.
Absolutely. I'm glad to be here. For those of you who are here, this is our our third.
Third, yeah.
What I'm hoping to do is kind of maybe put out some useful information, maybe tools from a prodependent perspective that might be useful to you personally in your journey of recovery, or those that you help. I'm not sure who else is in here, but that's kind of what I'm hoping to do, and every time we meet, and then certainly answer questions you might have about either what we're discussing or something else. Whatever questions you might have, I'll do my best there. So, do I have any questions to start? Does anybody have anything they want to know right off the bat, or just type them into the Q&A?
Type any questions in the Q&A.
Okay. And we'll kind of watch those, and Tammy will help me watch those as we go. So the last time we met together, we talked a little bit about early recovery, and some of the things that are important as you begin that, trying to kind of piece things back together and put your life back together a little bit. And we talked about balance and the importance of balance in 4 really specific areas. And we won't go back through that. We can do that at another time. But those are physical, taking care of your physical needs, your body needs, your emotional needs. So emotional is another area. Your spiritual needs, whatever that looks like for you. And relational needs. So that's kind of what we talked about last time.
Okay, so the question is, why are you using the word recovery? That sounds like what the addict needs to do, not me. Great question.
Yes, very good question. I use recovery because I'm thinking of healing, like recovering your heart, your life. So I'm not looking at recovery through an addict lens, through a partner lens. I will pay attention to that though, sometimes that can be a little triggering because we use recovery in an addict. Obviously, we use that all the time in recovery for addiction. So that's certainly not the paradigm I'm coming from, but more on the healing journey. So I'll focus on that. So balance was the first one. Today, I kind of wanted to focus a little bit on the importance of support on this journey. I assume that's why some of you are here. This is one of the things that you're using to get support for yourself and maybe create a little bit of a community or be a part of a little bit of a community that can relate to what you've been through and what you're going through.
And a safe place, a safe support too.
Absolutely. And that's one of the things, of course, we are wanting to provide for you here in this forum. So when I talk about support as far as healing and a partner's journey in that way, we're just talking about, and I kind of want to back up maybe a little bit and talk a little bit about why support is so important. Oftentimes when you're the partner of somebody who's struggling with addiction, it can be for most people, it can be a very isolating event. Even though you're not the one struggling with that thing that's going on, the behaviors, the addictive behaviors, it's just sometimes a struggle to know, who can I talk to? Who's safe? Who is going to be able to hold that space for me and let me be sad and mad and whatever feelings I have, and not judge me, not try and fix me, not try and tell me what to do. So isolation can be a big struggle for a partner. And for others, maybe not as much. I tend to be, I'm actually pretty introverted in my personality, so it can be difficult sometimes to reach out in general, much less about something really close to the heart, something so personal. Oftentimes, partners also carry a lot of the addict shame. They don't want to, but it's sometimes that shame being in a relationship with someone who's doing A, B, and C could be really shaming, could bring up a lot of my own shame. So that could keep me out of, or tell me, don't tell anybody, because if you do, they're not going to understand, or they're going to judge you, or they're going to hate you, or they're going to hate my partner, and I don't need that. And sometimes just, that general sense of just loneliness. I've lost that person who is my person who promised that they would stay, that they would keep working with me, that they would be there for me in good times and bad times. And now they've changed that game, and they're thinking more about themselves, and they're pulling away, as that's what addiction does. So there's probably a lot of other things, but those are some of the things I think partners come into treatment, or in their early stages of healing, that they come in struggling with. So if you have,
and I want to just, when we're talking about treatment, it's not, you're getting treated for addiction. It's therapy and support. And when partners contact me, and a lot of you do, and I'm grateful for that, but I tell them that they deserve support with this, because it is so traumatic, it is so challenging, and everything that you thought you believed about, like you said, the person that you love and cherish, and that many of them are married, so they said I do, believing that this is the way our life was going to be, and now all of that has been shifted on its axis. So when we talk about treatment or whatever, it really is about support and helping partners find their footing in what is probably, I kind of think of it as kind of quicksand. You don't know where is a safe place to step.
Right. Thank you, for sure. So when I think about treatment, I'm actually, just thinking about getting support. Maybe it's actually going to a therapist and seeking help in that way. I hope so, because I think they can be very helpful. I hope. So I'm thinking more in terms, of support. We have to kind of consider within ourselves who is safe. So oftentimes I have partners just kind of consider in general their life, and who do they have that are safe for them to talk to. But I think there's two different areas you want to look at. Who's safe to talk to about this particular struggle? Who can I tell that my spouse or my partner or my loved one has this struggle, and that they can be there in that with me and not judge me, or not fix me or tell me what to do. And then there's support like that, maybe is a little bit, maybe just general support. Who's there to talk to just when I need, or who's there to exercise with, who's there to, who's like I can go to church with, or I can go, maybe just get petties with, or whatever, whatever that is. So obviously the recovery support is going to be a little bit deeper. It's going to require a lot more safety, depending on how much vulnerability there is in that relationship. So when you look at the support that you need, I break it down into some areas. So I'm just going to, you don't need to memorize these or even write them down, just kind of just think about these. The first place I go is family. Okay, do I have any family that I can trust and that can support me on this journey? And then I look into friends. Do I have friends around me that could hold that space for me, who could be there for me? And particularly even if they may not have had this experience. So, you have to kind of consider that. I look at my my religious community, maybe my church or that kind of thing. Is there people in that circle that could support me and help me there? I might look at collegially, like people I work with. Are there people there that in that circle that might be able to help me? And then I look at experience that kind of goes out that way, maybe neighbors, other associates. So kind of breaking those down and thinking about my levels of support. I thought today might be kind of nice to just maybe if you guys have something to write with, or even just to sit and think, I was just going to give you a minute to kind of jot down maybe names of people in your circle. considering all those different areas that you can have friends that are there, that you feel like potentially, even if maybe they already are a support to you, or maybe they're a potential support for you. So maybe just take a minute and kind of jot down a few names of people in your circle that you feel like.
While they're doing that, someone asked, and I think this ties into how do you put these people in the circles. So this person writes, I have isolated myself from women friends because I don't want to talk to them about my situation. I know that they would shame me for staying with my husband so long. Why are you staying with him? So how do I maintain friendships while pretending that everything in marriage is fine?
That is really difficult. It's difficult to do that. When I feel like when you've been like jolted awake, you've just been jolted and these big things have occurred in your life, it's really hard to show up in relationships and be, like you say, pretend or be very surface, because life's just kind of taken a sharp turn into serious, and it's really hard. I would challenge maybe a little bit my thinking. I would probably sit down and think, okay, would they really judge me? Or is that the story I have? Is that my own shame telling me that they would judge me? And they might. I'm not saying they wouldn't. Not everybody is safe. Not everyone, as
Right.
he says, deserves to hear our story and know all that. But I would really challenge that story that I tell myself sometimes. And if that's the case, then I may have to set boundaries in those relationships. I may have to pull back a little bit and continue to look outside of that circle for people who can. The recovery community, that's the beauty about the recovery community, from 12-step to other support groups, therapy groups, is generally you're going to be with other people who have experienced similar injury and can at some level relate to the pain you're going through. So you might be able to say something like, I'm going through some really hard things right now. I could just use your love, your prayers, your whatever. I'm probably, going to have to take a little step back, but just know this is about me, not you, whatever. You might be able to say enough without giving up too much information.
Even if it's like, because I was thinking about, even if it's like, I just need a mental health break, let's go to a movie, and so you still can maintain some sort of friendship, but it is like, I don't want to talk about what's going on, so don't bother me with that, but let's do something on a more superficial basis, which is also a little form of escape. But I love what you said too about this, the 12-step groups or whatever, but the drop-in groups, and we've got several of them, including a new one on Sunday night for betrayed partners. Angela Spearman started moderating one last Sunday at 6 p.m. Pacific time. And I've heard from all people that shared with me that it was great. And that's a safe place because it is other people from all over the world, that you can connect with. And if there's somebody on those meetings where you go, I made a connection with that, if it feels safe, you are welcome to make a connection with, you can chat and say, can we share emails or a phone call, whatever, if it's safe, you're welcome to do that. But we wanted to create that community where it is safe for you to be able to share in a really deep way if because somebody else is in the same kind of position.
Right. Absolutely. And I like that too. I think you can develop friendships. You might have to start looking at that gray area in friendships where I may have those that get all of my truth. They get the deepest, darkest, most painful things going on in my life. And then I've got my friends I do go to the movies with. We don't necessarily go down that path, but it's still important that I'm having fun and that I'm taking care of myself. So I don't think I have to be hard on myself either and create a big judgment that I'm being fake if I'm not telling everything. It's okay. Not everyone, like I said, deserves to know everything. They haven't earned the right to hear all of your truth, maybe because maybe they've been unsafe in other ways, but maybe we have a really good time playing cards and it's okay to give yourself some room there to say, it's okay if I don't tell this person everything. That doesn't mean I'm fake or even pretending. And if I just can't tolerate a certain group, I'm just in a different place. It's okay to hit the brakes, I think, and give yourself space if you need it.
And that includes family, because, and family, you know, love them that they come to, you know, they'll defend me, you know, and, oh, your husband is da da da, you know, usually, but that makes it more challenging, because you know, you're in a relationship, there was love there, and even if you can't find it right at the moment, you know, there could be something to salvage. So it does create you know, a bit of a challenge, you know, with a family situation, because if, you know, you're showing up at the holidays and there's all this stuff that if they know too much, you know, it can be challenging too. So it is, but you deserve support. So, you know, I think that's one of the great things about a therapist, because you pay them, they keep your confidence, and, you know, you can say anything you need and want to with them.
Hopefully, yes. That's the
Yes.
whole idea about therapy, is it gives you that safe space to do that and be you, and not have to hold up any of those, I don't know, expectations of others or whatever you might feel, the pressures that you might feel. So another really important point, I think, for a partner is, they often say that our mental health is really as healthy and strong as our strongest healthy attachments to others. So building healthy attachments, particularly when our primary attachment is wounded, is going to be really important. Nobody will ever take the place of that primary attachment, that only they can fill that role. But there hopefully will be a handful of individuals that can at least bridge some of that gap for you during the healing process, and they can kind of, like I said, hold that space and be there for you, show up for you in ways that your partner probably hasn't been and probably won't be for a while, until they learn how to live sober and healthy. And that, unfortunately, takes time. And so there's a lot of loneliness there. And we want, because partners, it's important that they continue to take care of themselves, regardless of the addict's behavior. Then it's important that they keep healthy, solid attachments in their life. And you'll want that too, because a lot of partners aren't sure where the relationship's going. They don't know if they're going to be able to stay. They don't know if it's going to end. So either way, you're going to want to have that network and that net kind of to be there, either way that might turn out. Any questions or thoughts as you were thinking about your list of people? Is it smaller than you thought it would be? Do you have more support than you thought you did? Are there more people around you that are potential support than you thought there were? Kind of put those questions out there and see if anybody is willing to share some of your thoughts about that.
Feel free to type those kind of comments in the chat feature too, if that's more convenient.
Yeah, either one. So the whole 12-step kind of, and from the, just for information, from the addiction perspective, the whole 12-step has been, the whole recovery and 12-step community has been successful over all these many years, because it takes addiction out of the shadows and it puts it into the light, and you can meet people with similar struggles that can help you.
Yeah, shame reduction and connection. So, you know, Dr. Rob talks about kind of the antithesis of addiction is connection. And for addicts who are, you know, and I know partners don't even think that sometimes we addicts, you know, feel the shame, but a lot of times we don't feel it because we keep going out and acting out to keep us away from all those feelings, both the good and the bad. But it also keeps us isolated and disconnected from the people that we love. So, you know, it's very complicated. And I'm not making excuses for addicts, trust me. But one of the things with 12-step is that it creates a place, you know, I go to my 12-step meeting and I share, you know, my stuff, and people will laugh at it because they've done the same thing. So it isn't that I'm the worst, most horrible person on the planet, and, you know, there's no saving me. It's like, I'm a typical addict, and, you know, my behaviors were hurtful and I need to make amends. And there's, you know, a whole program for that, in the appropriate time, in the appropriate order. But it helps us normalize and connect, you know, in a different way. So.
Right. And for partners maybe who are experiencing the trauma of being betrayed, sometimes those feelings are exactly the same, in the way that I could be with people who I can say my partner did, or did A, B, and C, and they thought nobody's probably ever dealt with that. And they'll find someone that will raise their hand and say, yeah, mine too. Mine too. I didn't think anybody dealt with that. I rarely have an experience where someone shares something and a group of partners says, wow, that's weird. Usually they're like, yeah, it's not exactly like that, but close enough, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And even if the actual details of the story aren't exactly the same, the feelings and the reactions, you know, like the consequences, whatever, all of those things, you go, yep, I can see the theme, you know, the thread through that. So somebody writes, my support group of friends is actually pretty awesome. And I'm thrilled for you. So, my support group, let's see, I'm done with that one. So are there 12-step groups online for codependent partners? Yes, if you go to sexandrelationshiphealing.com, if you're registered, you'll be receiving emails with links, but on that, there is the link for the Sunday night one with Angela Spearman. So again, that's at 6 p.m. Pacific time. I have to think, we've got so many webinars and drop-in groups. So yes, so there's, there's that one, and then alternating Wednesdays at 12:30 Pacific time. There's another partner drop-in group specifically. And all of our partner groups are prodependent oriented. COSA, as long as they aren't using the codependent language and saying, you know, keep your side of the street clean and you know, and labeling, you know, those can be supportive too. With the COSA groups, you're going to be with other people who are partners of sex addicts. So that's great. And you'll find similar stories. So, you know, I think with that, I invite you to take what you need and leave the rest. That's true of anything too. But, you know, I definitely believe you can find, you know, people that can support you and you can support them. And I'll tell you, you know, both sides of that is valuable.
And I think it's important. I just want to add to that, Tammy, that the 12-step traditionally for the betrayed party, the partner, the spouse, the family members have used the codependent model for years. So it's going to probably be a slow change, but I tell a lot of the partners that I work with, tell your sponsor, tell your group, this is how I feel. This is how I see things. I'm not in denial. I'm not trying to, I'm here, I'm participating, I want to learn, but I just choose not to see myself as a sick person because I love somebody. And if your sponsor group can't support you where you are, you may need to keep looking. You may need to find somebody who can. Give them the Prodependence book, have them read it. And maybe you might have to train your support group.
Yeah. I had somebody that, and it was an Al-Anon, but they said they went to an Al-Anon retreat, and she said, I was passing them out like candy. Everybody, you know, so you know, you can be part of a cultural change with that as well. So
for sure.
So there's a question. It says, my first discovery, I told 6 dear friends and several relatives. My husband is on a second relapse. I've hinted to my friends what is going on, and no one bites. It's clear they don't want to talk about this anymore. They think I should leave. I remember what this felt like in college when people stay with betrayers. You get tired of talking to these friends. So I understand my friends' attitudes and still love them. Thank goodness I have caring family members. I need safe places to go talk with other people in my same situation. Group therapy. I've been through so much with individual therapy on the first round and find I need people who are experiencing the same thing as me. I went to the Sunday nights program. What a relief. Oh, good. Thank you. I'm glad to hear that. So.
Yeah. And I think you bring up bring up a good point, you know, in the question. This kind of highlights what we were talking about. Sometimes you will have friends who just can't hold that space. And it seems like you're not internalizing that. You're recognizing, gosh, that's not about me. That's more about them, which is awesome. So much recovery in that. But it's not about, or just so much of that healing going on inside of you. So it's not about me. It's sad. It's sad that I have friends. I'm disappointed. I wish they could show up for me again. Because addiction is not a straight line upward, and recovery is not a straight line upward for addicts. Relapses or slips or struggles are a part of that journey sometimes. And as long as the recovering person is learning from those, they generally they can keep moving and be okay. But if you're not a struggling person or a partner, it'll be hard to understand that. And remember, if they're close friends that aren't partners themselves, they just don't, their lack of tolerance is probably they're struggling to tolerate your levels of pain. They don't want to see you hurt. They don't want to see you sad. And they just don't know what to do with that. So I would say just keep doing what you're doing and expand that circle of people. Add friends who can be there and continue to support you.
I concur. It like what a lot of what great perspective that you have, that it really is, that you can understand where they're at. I think of it too. It's like people don't know what to say or whatever, and a lot of people want to fix the situation and don't know how to hold the space and just be okay with you sharing. But it's kind of like if the loved one had cancer, what would they do and what would they say? And, and in Prodependence, it talks about, that too. It's like, then they bring you casseroles and they help and all of that kind of stuff. But with this, it's uncomfortable. It's, it's very difficult. And there can be, that lack of understanding with that. So, but I'm really glad you found the Sunday night group. And one thing, Dr. Rob is offering a 2-week intensive starting March 31st for people who are newly into recovery or are struggling with some relapse. So if anybody wants, it's men's program, very small. Dr. Rob is the lead facilitator and educator for this particular program. If anybody wants information, on that, I'm happy to you can reach me outside. You can call me or email me and I'll share details with you. But, it's a great opportunity to work with, I think, the leader in the field on this particular issue. And
that's a rare opportunity, and it probably will not happen very much. So if if anybody that would benefit from that service.
Yes, it really is designed to give a solid foundation and an aftercare plan and support and help make the connections and, break through the stuff that, can be preventing people from getting to that level where they're able to, get some sustained recovery. So the question is, do you know a support group specifically for divorced betrayed partners? And there isn't that much stuff for betrayed partners in the first place. And then there are divorce support groups, and I'm sure that there are plenty of people that are in there that are betrayed partners. So one of the things that I've found with some groups is that it's kind of a toxic, where they just keep living the negative about that. So different if it's a grief kind of support, group where you're grieving the loss of a relationship and things like that. But honestly, as a betrayed partner, you still qualify for the betrayed partners groups, because, just because the relationship ended doesn't mean that the negative, the trauma, the negative baggage, poof, is suddenly gone. So we invite you to continue, in these platforms as well.
I would say the same thing. I know there are many partners who go through the programming I offer at my office, at my work, that some come in. I've even had some come in divorced. I've had some divorced in the middle of that. I've had some divorced later. But I just adapt that. I have them adapt that material to meet where they currently are, and we try and do the same to help with that. But I think what Tammy says is really important. You may be out of the relationship, but the aftermath and the consequences you might still be living with. And if that's the case, I think a betrayed partners group, whether you're with the addict or not, should be able to accommodate that. And again, you may have to train your outside of the therapeutic world, you may have to train your support, and you may, and maybe a divorce, I would assume most even divorce support groups, I would say probably a high majority of the people in those groups would deal with betrayal on some level. And I also want to piggyback on that. I think I mentioned this in the first webinar, but I think it's really important that you're recognizing too, sometimes people are there and they're willing to listen, but you want to really listen to your heart, listen to your gut. about what if that support is healthy, the support they offer is healthy for you or not. Brene Brown has this concept called common enemy intimacy. It's as she calls it, a false intimacy. Sometimes you'll have friends or people or support in your circle who really just want to join in your anger, or you connect through your anger, you connect through your hate or your disdain. And that might feel good for a very short time, but you'll find as you leave that discussion or you hang up from that phone call, you'll feel not better. So sometimes there's this false sense of intimacy when we're connecting with those emotions. Certainly anger and hate and all that might be a part of that support, but we want to make sure that that's not the primary connection of those supportive relationships. That we're also talking about healthy behaviors, and we're also talking about other things, healing, the healing process, and safe language, and we're talking about all those things that will bring about healing and that will promote healing. So I always say we want to feed the solution and starve the problem. So talking about the problem is necessary, but you'll want to really decide how much of that you need and when you need to start talking about the solutions and who can help you do that. Who in your support network can help you do that.
That's a great point. I go to my 12-step meetings, and like when I'm in my AA meeting, we don't just talk about alcohol. Like, we don't spend the entire hour talking about alcohol and different drinks and all of that type of thing. We're talking about things that will help us move forward in recovery. Every now and then somebody talks about, something, particularly when they like name a type of alcohol or whatever. And it always catches me because I'm like, it's so foreign to hear that. That's not the typical thing. So, I think that is part of that, living in the solution and looking for, we'll talk about gratitude, or we'll talk about, any one of the steps, or we'll talk about, a particular point of the message where it's, but we're working on implementing the positive things in our life, in our environment. But I had a death in my family in December, and I went to a meeting and I said, I said, I don't want to be here. I'm not, I've been going to meetings for a long time. And I said, my hands are sweaty. I don't want to talk. I don't want to, but I made myself talk, and I owned where I was at. And I just said, and then I sat down, and then I was okay again. But, so yes, I want to be in the moment and to share the, pain and whatever. But overall I go and, I get this connection and a level of serenity. So when I leave there, I leave, with a better outlook and some hope, goodness. That's what I'm always looking for, is I want hope that, that things are going to get better. And for me, they have, I've found a way through some, through lots of life's fun little challenges. So.
Yes, for sure. Thank you for that. I feel like too, you also want to make sure that sometimes some of your relationships might not be able to, as you go through this journey, they'll want solutions too. They'll want to give you solutions. They'll want to do it sometimes prematurely. They'll want you to maybe get over it, or they'll want you to just make a decision about the marriage. And this is not that easy. So it's okay to train them and say, look, that's not the kind of help I need. What I think I just need is a safe place to talk. I just need to know that wherever I am, you can love me through it. I don't expect you to agree with me or whatever, but just love me through it. And sometimes it's okay to state those things to the people that you need support from. Sometimes even a well-intended mom, well, I think you should just, and you can say, Mom, thank you for loving me so much, but that's not helpful. What would be more helpful is if you just put your arms around me, or just let me know you love me and trust me to make, the decisions when I'm ready. And sometimes I even give people the words, this is what I need to hear. This would be really helpful. So I even go that far, and because sometimes people don't know, and their efforts to help, sometimes they cause more pain than they mean to, but generally they're trying to be helpful, I would say.
Yes. And if you can keep that, but I love that you give them, specific words. It's like, I like things like, I can hear how painful this is for you. Is there anything I can do? Is there, is there something I can do? Is it just listening is all you need from me? I mean, whatever it is, but just hearing the pain too, or like how challenging this is, or, or the really great ones are like, you need a break, like you said, let's go get a pedi, like let's go do something that will take you out of the moment,
Distraction.
a little, yeah, self-care break.
Distraction's a good self-care tool.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, not distract to the point that I'm numbed out every day, but sometimes just a little distraction when my brain's like,
yeah, a brain vacation.
Like a dog with a chew toy, just can't
yes.
let go. And I'm that way. It's like distraction time, and a healthy distraction. Let me see. And usually it's connection with another person. Will almost always get me out of that, whatever my brain wants to chew on.
Yeah.
And feel a little out of balance with. So, did anybody have any other thoughts about their support system? Has anyone thought of talking to somebody about what's going on, but wonder if they can handle it, wonder what that response might be? Have you tried to do it and been betrayed? That happens too. I think another reason I just love support groups and being around people who are healing from similar things is, I think this is another Brene Brown concept, but she talks about being in the arena. So when you're like in an arena in a fight, so to speak, you're in some type of fighting arena, the people that you most care about their opinions and their thoughts are usually people who are there with you inside of it. We've also have a black eye and a bloody nose. Like, you're really not interested from the people in the stands watching from afar. It's hard to take feedback from that. I kind of want to know that you have, what it's like to be beat up a little bit and knocked around. So people don't have to have your exact experience of being betrayed in this way from a partner, but even if they're able to say, gosh, I can't imagine what that feels like. I'm so glad that you trusted me with that. But I do know what it feels like. I don't know if this matters, but I do have this experience, and maybe I can relate to it in this way. That's a beautiful, we don't have to be exactly the same, but that's a beautiful way to start figuring out who has the bandwidth to hold your pain and to show up for you when you need them. And don't be afraid to teach them. Don't be afraid to teach them by what you do, because you will. I have lots of support outside of, I found people who have totally different life experiences than me, but I get closest to people who can find a way to relate, who aren't afraid to share. I need reciprocity. Most of us need this reciprocal, I share and you share, not I'm the project and you're the
right.
And I'm the sick one. That kind of relationship does not feel good to most people. They need to know that they're not alone on some level in their pain. And I assume that would be what most of you need, is that reciprocation. Find relationships that can give you back also vulnerability and their struggles and their fears and doubts and worries and anger and whatever goes on inside of them. Then you won't be so afraid. Then what a beautiful connection that can make.
Yeah, what I hear you saying is that you're equals in the relationship. That there's a partnership in it, rather than, like you said, I'm a project. So then it's almost the power up, power down position. Somebody's better than me because I'm the project and they have to fix me.
That's again why I think the 12-step model works so well. The group runs the group. There's no expert in a 12-step group. Obviously, everybody's there with a similar struggle, and we all help make the meeting happen and contribute in some way, but there's no expert there. In fact, that's against the traditions. No expert. We don't promote experts. We just come and meet and try and connect and work through, the struggles. So that can be beautiful. In the therapeutic session, you're obviously going to have a therapist who's going to guide that, but a good therapist will be able to know when to speak and help, and know when to let you sort out things for yourself as well. So it's a joint effort there.
Well, I think you mentioned group therapy too, or maybe let's talk a little bit about group therapy, because a lot of people go for individual therapy as well. But, I think there's something really valuable in group therapy. So you do a lot of groups. Why don't you share a little bit about that experience?
I'd be happy to do that. I think they actually served different purposes. So when partners come in situations where they're brokenhearted and they need support to heal all of that, generally we'll have them see an individual therapist in conjunction with a group of other partners who have experienced similar things. The individual therapist can help you with the very specific details of your specific story, and that's unique to you, where the group therapy can help you with connection and kind of normalizing your experience and making you feel human again, like helping me feel like I'm not alone. And then the other beautiful thing about a group experience is you get to learn, you have the benefit of learning from other people's experiences and their healing and their stories, and that those little stories we have in our head that no one would ever love me if they knew this, or they would just think I'm a freak, they would judge me for staying with him or her. All of a sudden you're with other people who feel the exact same way. My partners who sit down and go, I've had them sit down and say, yes, I'm still with my husband. I don't want anybody to tell me what, don't judge me. That's the first thing they say. And most of the other partners are like, yeah, me too. I don't want to be judged either. And then I'll have inevitably another partner say, yeah, and I left mine and I don't want to be judged for that either. So no one wants to be judged, but you get that experience of we find our common humanity in that group setting. And then in that individual therapeutic experience, we can get more in detail about our specific story. And those working together are best case scenario for healing, in my opinion.
I think too, my experience with some groups is, I can say I'm thinking about this, and somebody can say, I did that and it worked well for me. Or somebody can say, I did that and it didn't work and here's why. So I can go, oh, maybe I should reconsider that, or here's maybe something you haven't thought of or something like that. So I think that's really helpful, from a group perspective as well.
Yeah, or someone might say, gosh, I've been going through this thing and this is the steps I took and it has been so helpful. And you might have been struggling with that exact same thing and just got you just never know. So we know through research that healing from betrayal happens best with those two things in place, with a good support system of your own, a good individual therapist, and group therapy if that's available to you. So having those three components work together is generally will have the best outcomes.
And while these are not therapy, they are support, and all of this is designed to be free so that you have access to something that may not be as readily available in your area. We do have another question. My ex-in-laws have no clue why I really divorced my husband. I always felt he should have told them, and that until he did, he was living a secret life. What are your thoughts?
I think that would be difficult. My guess is I guess if it were me, I would feel like they would probably wonder how much of it was my fault. I'd probably, that would be hard. It'd be difficult for me not to know that they didn't know the truth behind the breakup of the marriage. So I guess I'm feeling empathy about that, but I also want to really validate your decision not to tell his story. I think that says a lot about your character and your ability to kind of stay in your lane and take care of you and not worry so much about, telling other people what he's done. I just think that says just a lot of good about you. But I also want to empathize with, here's these people, my ex-in-laws, people who have been very close to me who have no idea why the marriage ended. And so I'm going to have to really support myself and hold myself up when I worry about judgment, or my little story, like I said, the little chipmunks in my head they probably think this or they probably think that. Just support yourself, love yourself, get somebody to help support you and tell you it's okay. I always think truth is kind of like a bubble, holding a bubble under the water. I mean, excuse me, lies are like a bubble. We're trying to hold that down. Our truth you can't hold down. It will eventually find its way to the surface. So even if you don't tell them, I just think truth finds a way. And I think, you know, they'll probably find out organically, you know, if they're close at all with their son. So maybe you can give yourself permission to surrender that and kind of let that happen for him, and, you know, give yourself a lot of kudos for not, you know, kind of going and ratting him out to whoever. So those are my thoughts. Hope that's helpful.
Yeah, it is really challenging because for all the reasons you said. So, but I too honor. You know, I was thinking too. It's like, you know, he is on his own journey, and if he's struggling with addiction and it's left untreated, it doesn't get better on its own. It only gets worse. And you know, we see it on the news all the time where people in a higher profile, you know, end up, you know, on the news. And so you know, even if it's only your little circle, you know, stuff gets found out. You know, people's lives turn into things that they didn't plan on. And so, you know, so your in-laws, if and when that happens, are kind of go, I wonder if that's, you know, contributed to it. But you know, the other thing for me, I guess, is I've learned that if I know my truth and I understand that, I'm not as affected by what other people think of me, because they don't have the whole story. So I can let that go and let it be just okay. That, you know, kind of like the first person said too, it's like my friends don't completely understand, you know, they get so it can be okay to have them have their story with things. So, but yeah, tough situation.
For sure. Any other
yeah, go ahead.
questions or thoughts about, or questions about group therapy or support or seeking your own support? Please type them in. We'd love to answer. Any other questions about just prodependence in general? What it is, what the perspective is, what recovery might look like from that perspective. Maybe you're working. I'm sorry.
I'm going to share one thing that prodependence isn't, because Dr. Rob always says this, and I thought I want to keep getting this out there. It's not another label. It's not, you know, because like people, you said, oh, you know, and it was part of the vernacular. We just said, oh, I'm a CODA or whatever, and he isn't trying to go, now we're going to label people prodependent. It's not. It's just a different framework of looking at people who love people that are struggling with addiction or mental illness, or, you know, in the chronic caregiver state, whatever it is that, you know, that our loved ones are struggling with. You know, we're in a position that we're trying to support them and manage through all of that. So Dr. Rob came up with this framework of looking at it from a different lens, and, you know, crisis support and, you know, all of those type of things, but specifically has said, you know, this is not another label. This is not just, you know, swapping codependent and now sticking a label of prodependent. So I want to be really clear about that.
Yeah, I think that is really important. We're not going to call ourselves prodependents.
Right.
Prodependence is a lens. Absolutely.
Yes.
It's a lens. It's a way we look at the healing journey for people who are affected by addiction and other things, like you mentioned, other mental illness, other chronic pain. I mean, anybody who's caretaking, loving, trying to support somebody who's struggling with a chronic condition. And addiction is definitely a chronic condition.
The ASAM definition, I share it. I answer a lot of emails from partners, and I always say this is not an excuse, but it's a reason. And you may see your person in there, but the American Society of Addiction Medicine has, you know, a short version of what addiction is, and it's a chronic, long-term, you know, where you make poor choices. It's like any of us looking from the outside would go, why would they do that? But the brain is hijacked by this, and it says without therapy or intervention, you know, there are dire consequences. It doesn't say exactly like that. I should have read it, but it's, you know, it basically says that you know, it's not going to get better. So,
right. And to piggyback on that, there is no diagnosis for somebody who loves somebody with that struggle. You can look in our diagnostic manuals and they don't exist. Loving somebody is not a diagnosis, which is probably one of my favorite things that Dr. Rob has taught through this model is loving is not diagnosable. Loving, there's no such thing as loving too much. We might love the wrong person. We might love in ways that are ineffective or unhelpful, but loving in and of itself should be honored. And it's understandable. Of course, we love the people that are our primary people. We love them. We love them for a reason. We choose to love them.
Yeah. And, I often answer to, partners, and, if it was black and white, it's like, oh, this person that I loved has turned into a monster and now they're all bad, but it isn't. It's like, we still see those good, those good glimmers or whatever, or we still have that memory of that. And, you shared, and maybe you could share a little bit of that too, with like talking about how, trying to find some good things to hold on to.
Oh yeah. In the relationship, you mean, like the attachment stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah. I oftentimes when partners come in, I'll say too, and maybe you can kind of think about this within yourself if you're living with a partner or still in a relationship with a partner. What parts of the relationship, and this might be I want to acknowledge this might be a really hard thing to acknowledge if I'm in a lot of pain, but what part of the relationship with the person, with the addict, is actually good? What part of the relationship is good? What ways do we connect? What things aren't broken in the relationship might be a better way to put it. What things aren't injured? It might be we share children. It might be our common spiritual beliefs. It might be, we exercise together. We have fun together. We're pretty good friends. I would say hold on to those things and try and kind of separate out that from the wounded parts of the relationship. My guess is if you're a betrayed partner, trust is broken, big time. And all the elements of trust, the reliability is broken, the accountability is broken. All these different areas that need to be healed and worked on are different from these. So sometimes if you can remember, there's parts of the relationship you actually like, even though you're really, really sad and mad. If we can kind of put those over here for a minute, if I decide down the road to stay in the relationship and try and work it out, if that's the decision I make, we might have something to come back to here if we don't throw all this stuff kind of out with the bat, kind of throw. So you might have to have friends, therapists, support around you, kind of hold those things for you while you work through the hurt. But sometimes it's hard to delineate between the two, but really important that you do if you are in a relationship still.
So what would you say to somebody that says, what if I actually despise my partner but can't leave?
I would say, then you're not ready. Be patient with yourself. I just think I think that's one of the great things about the Prodependence perspective. The idea is that it's okay. You could hate and love somebody at the same time. You could hate and want to leave somebody at the same time. All that mixture of opposing emotions is pretty normal when you are in that highly traumatized place of feeling betrayed. So I would say, if you're not ready, it's okay. If you despise him, it's okay. If you love him and despise him, it's okay. I just think when and if the time comes that you need to make a big decision about the relationship, to leave or to stay, in my experience, partners just come to that. They just know. They just know. And with the help of your support around you, they'll help you kind of sort through all that as well. So.
And some people can't leave for financial reasons or health reasons or whatever. But it's tough to be in a house with somebody you despise. So hopefully, even if you can find a space to, if your circumstances are, I absolutely cannot physically leave, for whatever reason, hopefully you can find a way to not have that negative energy yourself, around the relationship. So, so that it can be more neutral, that you have more positive connections to other things, so that there doesn't have to be the toxicity, I guess is what I'm thinking of for you in that particular relationship. So.
And also, maybe work to set some healthy boundaries for yourself. If you can't leave, or you don't, whether you can't for those type of reasons that Tammy mentioned, or you just emotionally don't have that strength yet to do that, create whatever boundaries you need so that you can feel safe in whatever space you're in.
So somebody else asked, oftentimes I find myself, and she uses, addicted to investigating what my spouse is doing through the day, i.e., why did it take him so long to text back? Why did his phone ring in a double ring when I called? And who was he on the phone with? With strength of prodependence, can I stop doing this?
I think absolutely. And I also want to normalize that feeling that you're having. You're not addicted to him. What you are is safety seeking. You're trying to create safety. You're trying to, in your brain, when he doesn't pick up the phone right away or he doesn't text back, because you've been injured, it's looking for safety. So you're automatically wondering, ooh, is that what he's done before? I mean, that would be, it's so uncomfortable. And I hear you. What I'm reading between the lines is you don't want to do that anymore. Maybe you want to work eventually your way out of having that kind of fear around those things. What I want to say is it's normal to feel that way. It's normal to want to know. And he has, hurt the trust, or she has hurt the trust in the relationship. So you're trying to find safety. So from a prodependence perspective, all I would say to you is, that is normal, and it's understandable why you do that. I would, if I really want to, for my own peace of mind, not for him, and not because I have to, because the magical healing people say I have to, but for myself, if that interrupts my peace, then I would go to my therapist, to my support, and I would say, help me work my way out of this. Like, maybe, can you be there? Instead of calling his phone, can I call you first? Whatever I need to do for me, so I can have peace, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does make sense. And I like that. I'm going to reach out to you rather than, my husband is not an addict or even in this world. So, I use all this language and I say, well, the story I have in my head is this, and sometimes I know he looks at me and goes, so it's really helpful and I'm not invalidating your thing, but it's really nice to talk to somebody. And sometimes even when I start saying it, I just go, well, wait, but a lot of times somebody else can give me perspective, or it can even be, how would you know if unless you're really investigating and you're looking at all his text messages and phone history and all that kind of stuff, and at some point he's got to either choose to get in recovery for himself or not, and so but understanding that he's lying to you, and you've caught him again and all of that, I totally understand that too.
And sometimes you just have to speak really kindly to yourself. Of course you feel scared. Of course you're in pain. And of course you want to know, because he hasn't done enough maybe to build that trust back yet. But maybe like a parent to a child, maybe like you kind of being the nice parent for you, just say, but you don't have to if you don't want to. Because will it really matter anyway? Because addicts will do what they're going to do, of course. Nobody controls their behavior. So you can give yourself permission to parent that part of you, to kind of be the best friend to that part of you who wants to kind of, start investigating or looking into, or kind of the dog with the chew toys, chew on that, you can kind of be really gentle and kind with yourself and give yourself, one of my favorite tools is give myself permission. So whatever that is, give myself permission to let go, give myself permission to do something else, give myself permission to take care of myself, to reach. So give yourself permission to do whatever you need for your own peace of mind. I hope that's helpful.
It is. And we're out of time. So that's like a really nice closing on that. So we invite you. So Sunday night at 6 p.m. Pacific time, Angela Spearman will be moderating a drop-in group. So you'll be able to see each other if you want to have your cameras on. It's not recorded, unlike this one. It's not recorded. So you can be there. It's safe. It's a safe place to be. And one of you chimed in that you've been there and it was great. So love that. So
Nice
thank you.
Here. Thank you for coming. And I'll be back the first week of
April.
The first Friday in April. So I hope you'll come back and we'll talk about another tool or another area of healing. So
thank you.
bye.
Bye.